You're watching Morning at NTV.
Okay, our next conversation today, primary 7 pupils will be starting their PLE exams. Sadly, just over half of that number will move to the next level. The dropout rate of the pupils in primary education right there is at 42.8%, Mr. Kaboyo. 42.8%, with over half of the number of female pupils that join primary not completing at all. 42.8. Females not completing at all. Now, recently, the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, urged parents and teachers to ensure zero school dropouts, saying special mechanisms should be devised to reduce the rising primary school dropout rates in the country. But then it's still a contentious story right there, and we're asking, where do these children go when they drop out? That's the $64,000 question. And now joining us for a discussion is Patrick Kaboyo. He is the National Secretary at the Federation of Non-State Education Institutions, FENA. Thank you for coming. And good morning.
Robert.
Yes.
Good morning and morning viewers.
Yes, before we get into this conversation of pupils dropping out, 42% of those students being females, half of that. Let's talk about the 6 who were arrested for selling fake examination papers to schools right there, Mr. Kaboyo. Isn't that unscrupulous? The suspects, head teachers, and officials from the education sector. If the people who are ideally supposed to be setting a positive example to our students are the ones actually violating their naivety, what are we dealing with?
Thank you. I want to say that human mind is always evil. And of course, in society, there are those unscrupulous people, and we are short of scrupulous people, really. Yeah. But again, we need to note that the journey to addressing examination malpractice has started. Because there were no random numbers,
yes,
we now welcome random numbers and hoping that such is going to be the system that moves from the beginning to end. But also you will note that this game has been bringing all stakeholders, parents, teachers, students, including some political leaders. I'm told there are those political leaders in the countryside who want to be seen performing so well and indulge in such. But I want to say that as educationists or teachers or educators, we denounce that, and we're in support of any effort that is geared to addressing that.
Any effort that is geared to addressing that,
yes.
One of it being these random numbers. Do you think they'll help resolve this? Because I don't see any end in sight, Mr. Kaboy, because if officials from the education sector are actually leaking examinations, won't they leak these center numbers?
You see, you cannot leak the center numbers as of now because you do not know them. Students receive them on that day of the examination. Maybe the prayer is that UNEB should continue tightening the noose so that even those who are marking the papers do not reveal until the scripts have gotten their final mark to be put on the certificate. But I should say that the journey to addressing such vices has started in people's minds, but also in action. I think what we need to do is to ensure that schools get to know the importance, benefits, and values of education. That if you cheat in exams at PLE, you cheat at O level, you cheat at A level, and you are becoming a doctor in future, you may fail to handle an operation and you kill our parents.
You may end up being the
or
quack
kill
doctor.
your own children.
Because we saw this incident one too many times. A primary 7 candidate might join senior 1 with their 4 points.
True.
Very, very glamorous. But then senior 1, then you realize, okay, how did this student get those 4 points? Because it never translates to senior 1. Their academic qualifications right there, primary 7, they never translate. The same thing with senior 4 when they go to senior 5. It never translates. Senior 6 to university, university into real life when they get those jobs. They do not appear to have the skills at all. So exam malpractice in that regard has done a lot of disservice, not only to the parents who pay school fees, in that they have to suffer seeing their children at home, still job hunting, no jobs, no skills, but also the students themselves are suffering a big disservice. So how best can we root out exam malpractice from our systems?
I think
Besides these random numbers.
Yes, for me, the system should be corrected holistically. If you, let's use the example of a tree. When the branches are yellowing or the stem has issues, you look at the roots. And for me, we cannot continue assessing these children only looking at the cognition aspect, or which
The
is
cognition aspect.
Yes.
I like that.
We should look at other aspects of a holistic education of a wholesome person. That when you look at the random numbers, those are coming to ensure that students realize the importance of values. So if you respect values and you have values you believe in, that means cheating has not to be a value for any school to expose. So if we are promoting a holistic education system, then there should be a national curriculum policy that spells what is taught at different levels and what is assessed. I would love to see these young boys and girls whom I have not yet wished success to be assessed in their value system. Can we have 20% of the national assessment going into values? Can we have the 10% going into the skills, then the rest of the percentage, which is 70, going into the cognition to see whether these people's heads comprehended, can apply the knowledge, and have the tasks that they have been taught in terms of content. That to me supports the random numbers, but mere having random numbers without having a clear policy on assessment will not solve the problem.
I like that argument, Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, and I really do hope if every government agency right here in Uganda had someone with your values like Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, I think this country would be very far right there. But then most of the sectors are mired with unscrupulous people that are hell-bent on just making money. Money will kill this nation, I'm telling you. Because everything has been done at the expense of the citizen. I think
we should also have a name and shame strategy.
Name and shame strategy.
Yes, because there are many viewers listening both here and abroad that I have taught students, and they can attest to me that I never aided cheating or telling them to cheat, but we made sure that we taught boys and girls who are men and women now of integrity. But can we ask those students at all levels, including university, to name those expert cheats that have always abetted cheating? I think if NTV and UNEB listening would start on a program of naming and shaming, you would get an interesting episode.
That is not going to happen anytime soon, because if it's the government officials themselves engaging in this unscrupulous business, so I do not think there will be the same people naming and shaming themselves. In that regard, they'll just have to, find a way to rub it under, push it under the rag in that regard, like they always do. So the main topic right now, I think it's the universal primary education. 42% of our pupils right there sitting for UPE drop out, by the way. Drop out of school, and half of that number are females. Mr. Kaboy, what are we dealing with? And where are our children going?
It is a sad story. It is a sad tale. And I have heard recently, I was reading the press, I saw a framework called the Zero Dropout. And I asked, what was this all about? Because if we are talking about zero dropout, there are critical things that we must put in place. First, dropout should not be a vocabulary for us to use in the sector. We should make sure that schools are very interesting for students to stay. If a school is interesting, no child will be absent. We should make sure that the water, sanitation, and hygiene issues in schools are sorted. If you enter any public school right now, be it a secondary school, a stench welcomes you right even before you go for short call. These are the very schools that have registered dropout rates high in terms of the girl child. These are the schools whose latrines cannot accommodate the sensitive nature of our girls, that you realize some of them pick infections from such dirty environments. And if schools are made interesting, hygiene is kept, teachers are kept, and also in terms of the institutional, legal, and policy framework, government should get out of the closet of saying we provide everything. Education is free.
What do you mean providing everything? Are you talking about the issue where the president was saying they're going to offer free pads? Are you against that?
You see, there isn't any freebie or any free thing that you attach value to. That's why we have accountability, we have integrity, we have value for money, we have responsibility.
So you're saying politicians should desist from this business of making populist pronouncements.
In fact, whoever advised the president to put pads in his manifesto misled him.
Really?
Pads should be a provision of a family.
Because we're looking at it in this way, Mr. Kaboyo, that maybe these pads will be able to offer some kind of reprieve to the families that could not afford them.
No,
right
thank you. No, thank you. If we empowered every family to have an income, let's say if every family has a cottage industry or a source of income, then they will be able to prioritize what is important. One, you should have a family budget that looks at food, looks at security of these children, but among the safest security measure is provision of pads for the girl child by the parents and not for the state.
So back up a little bit, Mr. Kaboyo.
It's not sustainable.
Let me just make sure the viewer understands you.
Yes.
So instead of the government offering pads to a family, it is better for the government to empower that family to improve its household income to be able to afford these pads on themselves.
Exactly.
Go ahead,
because a girl child will grow from age 13 up to age when they go into having their own homes, experiencing the menses.
Yes.
Imagine you have 4 girl children in your household. Will you wait for government to provide for you?
No
pads?
way.
So equally, that talk to me should not be put forward, but should be addressed to a stop, so that we empower these families and girls themselves to think outside the box, how they can also participate in raising money for their own pads, but not to have government put on task, provide pads. That's not sustainable. No.
So as the Federation of Non-State Education Institutions, what are you doing to ensure that we scale down on this number of students that are dropping out of school?
Yes, first of all, the dropout issue is that is not our vocabulary in private schools. One, we have best practices that we have continuously shared with the government. We admit that we also short of some areas here and there, but we do encourage cross-learning. Secondly, we have participated in the policy formulation, and our ideas are documented in the policies that are being discussed. But also to say that in the recent early childhood education and care policy, we are emphasizing that for every child who is of school age should first go to a nursery school or an ECD environment, so that this child is not in primary school when he or she is underage to drop out. Most of them drop out because they are pushed in levels where they cannot fit, and they lack that preparation that is done in the nursery schooling. But with the contribution we have made in the ECD policy, that is one of the sustainable and long-term strides that we have made as a federation.
So, Mr. Kaboyo, what do we tell the pupils that are sitting their exams right now? What is that pertinent advice that you have for them?
Yes, we should tell them to, of course, be firm and keep their integrity and not to cheat in today's paper in the afternoon, because the morning is almost done, and also the papers to come. We should tell them that they are bound to have a good future, in fact an excellent future, because the teachers that are going to teach them in the other levels to come are going to be the best teachers that this country will ever have, because of the national teacher policy that is proposed. It has very many goodies that are going to benefit the students and also the young teachers that are joining the profession. Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about quality of education, Mr. Kaboyo. Who worries about quality beyond numbers?
For me, the person who should worry most is the parent. But again, when you look at our schools, there is little or no community participation. You force parents to attend a school meeting. You force parents to attend to their own children issues because they think government has the responsibility for the children. So this is a clarion call to all leaders in respective capacities to think about cost sharing.
Cost sharing.
We need those students in all public institutions to know that if parents make a contribution, they will demand why there is poor quality. They'll demand why the teacher is absent. They will demand why things are not as they are supposed. But if you know that hands are off, eyes are off, also the heart will be off, and children will do as they want.
Wow, this is a very, very interesting conversation, Mr. Patrick Kaboyo. Right about now, you know, our students are sitting their exams and would like to, you know, give the viewer an update on what is going on. So right about now, our reporter Joyce Nakato joins us at this juncture from Ntinda School of the Deaf. My sister Joyce Nakato, a very good morning. And what's the latest from where you are? Good morning. Hello, Joyce, if you can hear me, what's the latest at Ntinda School of the Deaf?
We are here at Ntinda School for the Deaf, where primary 7 candidates are really getting ready to write their final examinations. We've been informed that there are 26 candidates here, and they're going to start with their mathematics paper. Now, because this school is a school for special needs candidates, they've been sent people who are going to help them translate or help them with the paper that they're going to write, because they are deaf. So they have to be given special instructions to write their exams as they prepare. Now, these are not the only candidates who are going to be writing their papers. There are a number of candidates all over the country. Over 60,000 candidates will be writing their papers, and they are going to start with mathematics. Then later on, in the afternoon, they are going to be doing science. However, we've been told that yesterday, UNEB informed us that 6 people had been arrested for trying to leak the papers that they thought were going to be written by the candidates today in the morning. But UNEB reassured candidates, reassured all school head teachers and even the country that the papers that had supposedly been leaked were fake, because they had not yet released the materials into the field for the exams that were going to be written. We shall be giving you more updates as they come in for candidates who are going to be writing their exams all over the country today. Thank you so much. Back to you, Romeo.
Wow, amazing. Jason Nakato reporting from Ntinda School of the Deaf right there as candidates. Some have already started writing. Others are still, you know, jeering to do that. But then, yes, we are right there. That's the update coming in from Ntinda School of the Deaf. 695,700 students sitting their examinations. We should all pray for these wonderful students right there now. We are also having some very, very worrying developments right now. 42.8% of the students that sit for universal primary education drop out. Half of those are the females. So I have the National Secretary, Federation of Non-State Education, that is Mr. Patrick Kaboyo, and we're having that conversation to find remedies to handle this. So Mr. Kaboyo, we were still talking about quality education, and you're talking about the involvement of government and other actors to help our students. And the main key point right there, I think, is sexuality education. How best can we teach our students about sexuality education without the teachers themselves shying away from it? Because if the students, the parents, the teachers rather say, no, this is a problem for the parents. So there's no end in sight. What do we do now?
Romeo, I want to first thank those children that cannot hear or talk,
yes,
using their signs by saying good morning and thanking
yes,
them. These are the signs
yes,
they use. Now, back to the sexuality education. Recently, the Ministry of Education and Sports launched the sexuality education framework. You realize that when the launch was made, it brought concern specifically from religious circles. Normally, we tend to hide our heads in the sand, not knowing that that has some serious ramifications. We know that every family operates differently because there has not been a deliberate effort to ensure that there is a policy on family and parenting. And we also know that the legal framework for family has still stayed on the shelves. That's the marriage and divorce bill. But also when you look at the coining of the name, I wish it had become marriage and family bill, where we get to know these children, to know the values of a family. Parenting should begin from home, because home should be the first school. You know, babies hold their siblings at home. So in that, they should be able to know sexuality issues, how dad and mom speaks to them, how do they address issues of hygiene, issues of menstruation, issues of transition from childhood to adulthood, which are the words that you can speak and those that you might not speak. All that can be very well situated in a policy for parenting and family. Understand their guidelines, but those guidelines have to be properly fused in the community and family, so that the sexuality education addresses the sexual reproductive health issues we have in schools. For instance, there are students right now who have missed exams because they got pregnant.
True.
And at all levels. So a child should know that if I develop breasts and I have transited from this level to having my menses, and I mess with any man around, even a student in my school, I can get pregnant. And if I get pregnant, there are implications for this. But all that has to come in the family discussion, which largely we do not offer. Because we are busy running, hustling, looking for fees, looking for meals.
Yes.
I think such programs should be good for all to embrace, including churches, schools, and the fact that we are here discussing this matter on a national television. Maybe with time, NTV should go into profiling such good shows that you can produce DVDs and supply to schools. They listen during their free time or during their sexual reproductive health debates. But I want to say that the focus should be put on the family, and the education sector is working towards the implementation.
In my opinion, Mr. Kaboya, I think the onus is on the teachers on this one to teach their students about sexuality education, because I think we did learn a lot. Me, myself, I was taught by the teachers about sexuality education, and they did mention that actually we were the last generation to be taught sexuality education. They actually say, no, you are the last. We are not going to be dealing with this in the near future.
Were you in our schools here in Uganda?
Yeah, in Uganda, St. Peter's in Zambia.
And what did your teachers teach you?
My teachers told me that if you have live sex without a condom, you contract HIV. Funny thing, back in the day, none of us knew that if you have sex without a condom, you'll contract HIV.
Because you had the exposure and good enough you were in the city, you paid heed and you really took it. But a child in the village who is exposed to a teacher who is not very well groomed or educated, or no, let me not use educated, who is not exposed, who has no facilities to ensure that he has done research, may inform the child, and this child may want to experiment what he or she has been told. But I remember when I was in primary school, some long time ago, we used to have videos brought to school or cinemas brought in the community. You see
some sort of tutorials.
Exactly. And I think for me, as you were taught, those were your days, but things have changed now. So with the changing trends, we have to ensure that we all get involved and not to leave this to the teachers, because when we leave it to the teachers, they must be trained and trained very well with skills to impart this knowledge and skills to the students. If we leave it to the teachers alone, we risk misconceptions, we risk having a skewed program. To me, I think the holistic approach should involve the community, the teachers, religious leaders, and all other leaders across board.
In my opinion, I think I'm still fixated on the teacher taking on the honors to help their students learn sexuality education, because they get to interact with the students on a daily basis. Like you said, parents are very busy looking for school fees here and there, so they might not get the time to talk to their children right there about sexuality education. And in the case of a parent who is a single parent, like a father who has a daughter, they might be uncomfortable, talking about poor menstrual hygiene, this and that. So that's where the teacher falls in to help this parent with those, those subjects that are so uncomfortable between the man and their daughter right there. So, and another contentious issue that was highlighted during our sexuality education was the issue of child marriages. That's when we got to know actually that if a girl is not above 18, a girl is not allowed to actually engage in any kind of a relationship, because we were seeing it in community, girls actually engaging in relationships as young as 14, and we thought it was okay. Even the young girls thought it was okay. Number one, because the community that you're saying should actually take on the mantle of sexuality education allowed it to happen. It created that environment. Let's say we arrest a rapist, a defiler today. Tomorrow we will go to court, and court will tell us to settle from outside. The parents and then the aggressor will come to some sort of agreement and then maybe pay off the family of the victim or marry off the victim. So sexuality education got to help us understand that, hey, this is criminal and you can actually run to the police. Now I'm looking at that incidence in the rural areas where there is low information penetration. Young people are getting taken advantage of and they do not know what their rights are. What can we do to arrest them?
In fact, as a country, we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
First of all, we have many good programs that are still unknown. For instance, there is a national program and guidelines on violence against children, which early marriage defilement is perpetuated by some known, respected people in our communities, yes, but they continue being protected. So this is the time when we need to have a paradigm shift. All these issues we are talking about are embedded in the curriculum or in the syllabus that these teachers handle, but they need to teach it differently and also ensure that the school is not isolated, is not an island. A school should be able to interlink with other players in different sectors to have a whole school approach. For instance, we can call resource persons to come to these schools and take the information from the expert point of view. Invite a community development officer to speak to these girls and boys about social issues. This will be bringing the means of gender, labor, and social development into the school. Invite a head of health center or a medical doctor within the school to ensure that these people come and speak to these students and teachers about public health issues, safety and security for these girls. There we are bringing the Ministry of Health. But what we have in most schools, you find teachers are burdened with the role of teaching these children, not knowing that when you invite an official from a hospital within, you invite an official from the district or sub-county within, you invite an official from a nearby police post to come and speak about why should a defiler not be arrested. This will help these students to know that, wow, school is not about teachers alone,
Yes.
but it involves other players. And this means, therefore, that a school should not implement a program that is fixed like a signpost. They are signposts. You know, schools run timetables where you know from 8:30 to this time is that, from this is the other. There should be a change in the design of timetable. We need to see these students also given time to reflect on these social issues on their own, and then they write some recommendations to the school.
Awesome. Mr.
To the
Kaboya, yes, I'm getting what that we've run out of time, but then let's end this note by taking a look at the role of the justice system in abating this problem.
Yes.
In your opinion, do you think this court should abolish these out-of-court mediations to arrest this problem?
For me, I think the Local Government Act has a clause on the local council courts which largely handle these issues of children issues. But the entire program of child protection and juvenile justice system needs to be improved, that for every issue or every case that pertains to the safety and security of children, deserves a special hearing and a special way of handling them, because when you play
No
with
mediations.
children, when you play with children, you are playing with the future. Mediation would be there, but at what level and who is managing, administering it, and why?
Patrick Aboyo, the Federation of Non-State Education Institutions National Secretary, thank you many thanks for having made the time to speak to us. You've been very, very, very pivotal when it comes to enlightening us on these issues. So he's saying out-of-court mediations, no, there should be some kind of stringent laws, like a deterrent. If you defile a young girl and then you pay off the family of the girl or marry her off, how do we know you're not going to do the same tomorrow? So out-of-court mediations, yeah, they should be abolished. They should find a way of taking these people to trial and letting them serve their sentences. Aige, aige. That's the only way they can learn from their actions. But if they know, okay, so that means we will have that situation that is, a continuous debacle that we shall keep on dealing with. The issue has been children. 42.8% are dropping out. Primary living, that is universal primary education. Those students sitting from PLE, many of them, as you see them sit for their exams, actually half of them will not go to the next level. 42.8% get to drop out. Half of that number are the young girls. Even the boys, the boy child, everyone is struggling. The education ministry, please. So that conversation has come to an end right about now. Let's take a very short break. We'll be right back with more exhilarating information. This is Morning at NTV.